Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Beyonce says, "Who run the world? Girls." And I think that it was pretty clear from looking at the communication that came back from the amazing women in the electorate of Newtown when we wrote to them on International Women's Day, asking them to set the priorities, that they are clearly setting the agenda not just for our local community but for the state. It is one of the things that you notice when you come into this chamber with 92 other elected representatives, that only 27 of those of us are women. At the moment, I think we've got a good 50% the majority in the empty chamber right now, but in usual times it is really not the case. And one of the things that we said to the women in the electorate of Newtown was, we want to make sure that just because there is not equality and equal representation in this parliament, we do not want the men to be running the priorities of what we address in this chamber. And so I asked them to tell us what things that they cared about and what they were passionate about, and it was perhaps not a surprise to hear that number one on their agenda of the most progressive women in the country living in the electorate of Newtown was the issue of climate change. And whether it's at our local ethical fashion shops in Newtown, at one of the community meetings in Petersham or Camperdown, or at a PNC meeting in Surry Hills or Erskineville, or an independent art or creative event in Chippendale or Stanmore, or at a local support service in Redfern or Enmore, you can see active women participating in things that contribute to climate change action and to the protection of our environment. When you go to a local action of a residents group protecting a local park or standing up against overdevelopment, it is often women standing at the front lines of those actions. And when you go to the Stop Adani protest, you go to community meetings about the need to transition away from coal and move to renewables, you see women being part of those key campaigns. And when you hear the concerns of women when it comes to the need to reduce waste, to reduce single-use plastic, and to actually address the issues that are impacting on our local community when it comes to the environment, you hear those voices loud and strong. The other issue that is clearly on the agenda of women in the electorate of Newtown, and something that I personally am very passionate about, is the issue of housing affordability. We have seen time and time again successive governments in New South Wales fail to address the issue of the housing crisis because they refuse to recognise that housing is a human right, that housing should come first. And actually the idea of putting housing as something that is designed to put profits into the pockets of big businesses is not okay. Housing needs to be recognised for what it is, and that is a universal human right that needs to be put first and foremost on the agenda. Can I just say that another issue that women spoke to us about when they raised their concerns was the issue of public transport. You speak to elderly women who rely on bus stops in the electorate of Newtown, who have now got to traipse with their shopping bags, usually not plastic because we are in the electorate of Newtown. We've got to traipse with their shopping bags to the next bus stop because this Transport Minister has closed the bus stop that was most convenient for them to be able to use. And you see people struggling with their prams or their other issues up the stairs because we have many stations in the electorate of Newtown, train stations, that are not accessible. These are big concerns that we need to see, and the priorities of this government needs to listen to the women in the electorate of Newtown when they say that they want public transport that is safe, accessible and affordable. It is clear that people that live in the electorate of Newtown don't just focus on the issues that are local to them. Big issues like stopping the Adani coal mine, like taking action on climate change, like making sure that we stand up for refugees, that we defend workers' rights and the right to strike, are all things that came back when we asked women what they were concerned about and what they wanted us to set as their priorities. But I just want to take a minute to do a shout out to a few special women in the electorate of Newtown, and some of those are the ones that actually go unnoticed on many occasions, because they are the people in the electorate of Newtown that engage with the Inner West Mums Facebook group. Now that group is something that I have relied on as a relatively new mum myself. I have relied on for late night tips and advice when I wasn't sure what to do. And as I left the house this morning with one hand with my daughter on it, the other hand holding my own bag, another hand that I wished I had trying to lock the door, and another hand that I wished I had trying to pick up the outfit that I am wearing now because I hadn't had time to get dressed properly before I had to go to daycare. While I was trying to do all of those things, I felt for the mums of the Inner West and know that I am not alone in my logistical struggle to do whatever I need to do before I get to work in the morning. I pay credit to the Inner West mums for all of the things that they do and promise to put women's rights and women's priorities on the agenda in this House.